The camera, sorry, the camera's back there. Good morning. We had waving to the folks online. The camera's back there if anybody wants to turn around and wave to our online folks. So glad you're here. Welcome to this celebration of the life of Kelly James Thompson. Thank you so much for gathering together in all the ways that we gather as we remember and honor Kelly this morning. I'm the Reverend Mary Geer, minister for the Olympia Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I am joined today by Troy Fisher, OUUC's music director. Thank you to all who helped create and support this sacred space today. We are streaming and recording the service today. We are grateful for the gift of your presence in whatever way you have arrived. It is a gift of kindness and compassion. It is the practice of this congregation to light a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition, a cup with a flame. For those online, if you have a chalice or a candle, please join me as we light them together with these words adapted from S. William Feist. We light this flame as our plea to brighten the dark corners of our hearts. We hold this flame, for in it is the promise of warmth for souls grown cold in loss and despair. We kindle this light that we might continue to find comfort in its warmth, strength in its light, holiness in its presence. We light this chalice knowing even as a sacred spark of life is extinguished, in the ensuing darkness, its light, Kelly's light, will still burn bright with all the memory and hope of his brief flash across our time. We light this flame of life, of love, and truth for the promise of healing hearts. We gather today to grieve the loss of Kelly Thompson, a husband, a father, a grandfather, friend, and neighbor. Today, may we be grateful for the love that he left, knowing that we grieve only when we have loved. Kelly died on June 8th at the age of 75. He lived for several years with Parkinson's disease. Today, may we remember Kelly's wholeness and the beauty of his spirit, even as we acknowledge the reality of his dying. Kelly was a man of integrity who worked for justice. He was also a man who loved to play and laugh, and he invited others to join him regularly. Today, we remember his life, his work, and his laughter. Every one of us here is acquainted with the grief that loss brings, and so we feel compassion for each other, united in our humanity. May we be united in the conviction also that the flames of life and love are never extinguished, but they live on through us.
One thing that could be said about Kelly is that he loved around. And that is not true of everyone. That sits out for, often when I say around, people's heads go down, they go, ugh. So we're gonna sing Around for Kelly. 'Tis a gift to be simple. Let's sing it together once all together. The lyrics will come up here on the screen in a minute, but I think you've got them. 'Tis a gift to be simple. Ready? Here we go. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. Time to divide up and sing around. I've asked Harrison and Carolyn if they'll help so we have a leader with each group and not just my big mouth. So Carolyn, can I give you this group up here, which will include over here. So you'll be group 3. Harrison, this will be group 2 over here. And those of you that are sitting out in the foyer, you can be with Harrison's group. And this will be group 1 with me. All right. So you'll sing, 'tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free. And then I'll start you, Harrison, and then Carolyn. All right. Good luck. We'll sing it all the way through twice. It helps if you smile. Please do not look terrified. Help is here if you need it. Here we go, group 1. 1, 2, 3. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. 'Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to lie. When thousands of voices raise right, to bow and to bend we shall be ashamed. To turn we shall is right, till by turning we shall not shout. To turn to be served is a gift to be free, is a gift to be served, is a gift to be free, is a gift to be simple, is a gift to be free, is a gift to come down where we ought to lie. When thousands of voices raise, when truth we shall be ashamed. When truth simplicity is gained, till by turning we come round. Turning will be our delight, till by turning we come round right. Brilliant.
So my dad loved the Tao Te Ching, and this is verse 78, Stephen Mitchell translation. Nothing in the world is as soft and yielding as water. Yet for dissolving the hard and inflexible, nothing can surpass it. The soft overcomes the hard. The gentle overcomes the rigid. Everyone knows this is true, but few can put it into practice. Therefore, the master remains serene in the midst of sorrow. Evil cannot enter his heart, because he has given up helping he is people's greatest help. True words seem paradoxical.
From the very beginning, Kelly James Thompson was a rebel. His early life was not easy, which gave him clarity about his values, great determination to do good with his life, and deep compassion for those who struggle and suffer. Kelly was born on April 12, 1948, in Lagunitas, California, to William James Tommy Thompson and Virginia Mateer Thompson. Toward the end of his life, Kelly wrote a life report for Dignitas, a Swiss organization which facilitates medical aid in dying. Here's what Kelly wrote about his early life. 1948 to 1952. Tommy and Virginia were typical of the World War II generation when I was born into their family in 1948. Mom did office work, while Dad worked selling paint and supplies to his World War II buddies. I was the second child born to them, my brother Mike being 14 months older. Our father's alcohol abuse would end the marriage in 1954. By then, I had two younger brothers, Bill, born in 1952, and Terry in 1956. I was always the biggest kid in school and afraid of older bullies who found me an easy target. Kelly's mother, Virginia, raised 4 boys as a single mom. Kelly attended Shasta High School, where he was a star offensive lineman and a big man on campus, living into that stereotype fully by dating a cheerleader. He was awarded a football scholarship to Weber State College in Utah. Kelly wrote this about his school years, 1952 to 1962. These were troubled times for the family and for me. After running away from home at age 12 several times, I was put in juvenile detention, solitary, for a week. I came out of detention realizing that a life of poverty and crime is a waste of a human. I also started full-time, hard physical summer work at 14 years old on a farm away from home. Given my size and strength and discipline, I became a good high school athlete and an average college athlete. Like many young men of that time, Kelly's life plans were interrupted by the Vietnam War. He was drafted and gave up his student deferment due to his belief that it was unethical to use college as an excuse to avoid the draft. Kelly wrote about that time in his life and in the world. 1967 to 1973. These were years of challenge and changes in the USA. Vietnam and civil rights dominated awareness and discussions. The draft and TV brought the civil unrest to main streets and to our living rooms. Government lies and violence divided families and neighbors. My brother flew a Marine Corps gunship while I was drafted as a conscientious objector medic. I did not carry or use a weapon. We were both in Vietnam at the same time. This was where I was exposed to toxic chemicals, which later resulted in my contracting Parkinson's disease. When Kelly came back to the States after the war, he returned to college. First a community college, followed by a stint on a communal farm in Oregon, then Gonzaga University in Spokane, where he graduated with a degree in cellular biology. Kelly said that he managed to fit a 4-year degree into 8 years. It was at Gonzaga in 1972 that he met the love of his life, Kelly Thompson. Yes, they were born into different families with the same last name. Marianne and Kelly were introduced by Kelly's girlfriend at the time. Marianne said she asked Kelly out after he and his girlfriend broke up. And for their first date, they went canoeing on the Spokane River by the light of the full moon, and the rest is history. Kelly and Marianne were married on August 30th, 1975, and they set about making a life together. Kelly wrote this about his work life. 1974 to 2009. I finished my college degree and married, and we began a farm and feed store, which we owned and operated in Monroe, Washington for 10 years. Later on, I would use my pre-med degree and business experience to work on the business side of national clinical laboratories. Marianne was a gifted teacher and did much of the kid raising while I was on the road working. Kelly and Marianne celebrated 50 years together and raised 3 children with much love: Adam, Ian, and Megan. Kelly loved being a grandpa and adored their 3 grandchildren, Tenley, Declan, and Orsa, pardon me. Orsa. Kelly and Marianne joined this congregation in 1992, in part as a place for their children to discover themselves and their values. Kelly is remembered for his many contributions here. He had a tremendous impact on the middle school youth at OUUC as a co-leader for several years, and I'm told that the water gun battles in their yard and on their lake were legendary. Kelly co-authored countless Yule plays, which you'll hear a little bit about later, and they were grand productions. I'm told he was supported by the Duct Tape Crew, a group of fellow parents who were backstage support for the plays. Kelly and Marianne offered elaborate annual auction fundraiser items like the Genteel Picnic and Bodacious Water Wars, tango dancing fountain dinners, and glamping on Mount Rainier. Kelly served on OUUC's Board of Trustees and worked on social justice issues close to his heart. He is remembered as someone who was imaginative and creative, who gathered people around him to have fun and get things done. Kelly wrote this about OUUC, 1990 to 2023. Marianne and I have valued our connection to the Unitarian Universalist congregation. We find the freedom to explore and discover our truths rare and nourishing. I have tried to live with integrity, honesty, and compassion. I am approaching the end of my life with those same values. After a long struggle with Parkinson's, Kelly died away from home in Europe, doing what he loved best, biking with his beloved Marianne and friends. His last stop was at the Dignitas facility in Switzerland, where he died a death with dignity. Kelly wrote that some events that were important in his life were summiting Mount Rainier several times, bicycling 4,000 miles across the US, touring Western and Eastern Europe and Cuba by bike with Marianne and his children, securing non-combatant status and working with Vietnamese soldiers during the US invasion of Southeast Asia, and working in the state legislature to create a more just and equitable society. It is clear that there are 2 things that Kelly valued most: family and justice. His infectious energy, integrity, curiosity, sense of play, and supremely corny jokes will be deeply missed. Kelly leaves behind a legacy of love for his family and love for this world. His presence helped make the world a better place, and we are grateful. Kelly, may your generous and adventurous spirit be at peace. We have 2 of Kelly's brothers joining us virtually, Terry and Bill? Michael, pardon me, and Bill. So we'll bring them up to share a few memories and stories.
My name is Terry Thompson. I'm Kelly's youngest brother, and I'm glad to share this time with you. I have 10 memories of Kelly that I would really like to share. Number 1, Kelly was a brilliant beacon of kindness to all around him. You just couldn't think of Kelly, I think, without experiencing all the kindnesses he did for all of us and our families. Number two, a boundless adventure. One of my best memories was helping Kelly to convert a van into an RV before that was a thing. And we made some very exotic changes to the van that he promptly lived in down by the river, okay, in Seattle, where he met Marianne. And I'm sure it was very impressive to her. He called it Vincent Van Gogh. Kelly was born with exceptional rhythm. If you know him, he played the bongo drums from a young age. And I remember he always loved to listen to funk rhythm music. So when we were riding Seattle to Portland, he would put a boombox on his bike and people would flock to the music. To channel Kelly Thompson this week, I'm a teacher. I have been playing funky music to my students as they enter the room, and it's been very awesome. They get it. I could just see Kelly there doing that. He was also a deep thinker. I can't remember him ever having comments that weren't well considered as we discussed topics of interest, and a man for all seasons. Of anybody I know, Kelly followed his personal and moral compass without compromise. No more or less than Thomas More did. He just isn't as famous, but to us that know him, you know, we know of his courage to follow his convictions. Kelly was a clone of his grandfather's grandfather, C.H. Mateer. So Kelly wandered around the West like his grandfather did, setting up businesses to help other people that a lot of them failed, in my estimation, but then he moved on after all his disappointments. And that was just a tribute to Kelly's optimism and service to other people. He's also the bravest person I know. Kelly taught me to drive. It happened to be with a 30-foot hay truck, and he was on top, and I was 14 and not a very good driver. But that took a lot of bravery, and I owe my driving skills to him today. So he was a great example to me on how to fulfill roles. Lots of coaching. We lived together in the Puget Sound, our families, for 4 or 5 years, and Kelly was constantly teaching me about how to fulfill the roles of brother, husband, father, uncle. He was a great influence on my family and me, and I'm sure all of you. So Kelly was the best example I know of somebody with pure charity, meaning to me, he didn't seek his own. He was not easily provoked. He looked for the best in people. And as we know, charity never faileth. Kelly was a great example of that to everybody. And finally, Kelly was my family, part of my family. I've been blessed with 3 great big brothers and parents, but to be with Kelly was to be like our mother, Virginia Anderson, and that's not bad company to keep. So finally, I'd like to say that I know that life does not end with death and our bodies ceasing to exist. And I look forward to the day when we will all be together again. Thank you.
I'm Mike Thompson. Kelly and I grew up together only a year apart in age. As children, we developed a strong bond to weather an adverse family situation, and like many siblings close in age, carved out ways to differentiate ourselves from each other. Some days we were like strong magnets pulling each other together, and other times the polarity switched and we pushed apart. Our father pursued many vocations as we grew up, but his overriding avocation was binge drinking. Our mother was as focused on her responsibility to care for us and our 2 younger siblings as our father was irresponsible. Unfortunately, without the supportive influence of a loving spouse, yet she had very limited tools and resources for raising 4 boys, and she struggled mightily. We were part of a very supportive religious community whose men, in addition to their own family responsibilities, always made time and resources to help our family. They provided countless examples of loving and caring service that deeply influenced Kelly and me as well as we grew. We were also shaped by employers that provided honest work for us, were fair in their dealings, and successful members of our community. Kelly was always the bigger and stronger of us and an excellent athlete. His coaches provided teaching and structure that helped him avoid many of the bad choices our contemporaries made. We experienced Christ-like service around us as we grew up that shaped our values for a lifetime. After we finished high school, Kelly attended college in Utah on a football scholarship. Due to lack of financial resources and the draft to support the war in Vietnam, we both served in the military during that conflict, and at one time were stationed near each other in South Vietnam. We were able to spend a couple of days together where I was stationed and had better quarters and food than Kelly did. I loaned him my extra ball cap with my rank on it so we could enjoy some time in the officers' club together. Thoughtlessly, we communicated to our mom that we were together in a combat zone, only heightening her worry and concern. My brother Kelly deeply and sincerely opposed the war effort, but honored his obligation to military service as a non-combatant medic. It was characteristic that he was able to find a way to honor an obligation and his strongly held beliefs at the same time, an example that helped me over a lifetime. Of the two of us, Kelly was the most intellectually curious. His living experiences stretched from a commune in Oregon, a van near the Gonzaga University campus, a suburban home on a lake in Olympia, and later as a boat person. He was happy in every place, except maybe the commune. I visited him there while on military leave. He was sleeping in a barn and had little to eat, and several companions that seemed unable to work very much. After a good dinner in town and some conversation, he left a few days later. After college, our career paths were as different as chalk and cheese at the beginning. Kelly was in the feed and seed business, and I had a technical career. Important things in our lives were remarkably similar, though. We each married better than our wives did, tried to pass on the best of our values to our children, engaged in service to our communities, became financially secure by living below our means, and balanced our lives between family, friends, work, and recreation. After we left the home where we grew up, Kelly and I never had a cross word with each other for the rest of our lives, most often attributed to his patience and willingness to listen. Our relationship became increasingly comfortable. We were able to pick up the same conversation after months and even years apart. And for my part, a source of broadening inspiration from Kelly and Mary Ann as they met the challenge of raising their family. My wife and children benefited from every contact with Kelly and his family. In our early 60s, as old men, we were able to spend 2 months together with 2 great friends, riding our bicycles across the United States, from Puget Sound to the Maine coast. That intimate shared experience with my brother after we completed the task of raising our families, the experience of strong marriages, was a lasting enrichment to my life and one of his greatest gifts to me. Kelly was a good husband, an understanding and loving father, a good Christian in practice, and to me, a loving brother's example of the values we learn as children together, from good examples and bad. And I shall miss him for a while, until I believe we'll be together again. I'm thankful to Kelly's family and friends for inviting us to take part today.
Terry and Mike, thank you so much for joining us virtually. Kelly's friend, Burnell Schatzel-Hill, made this audio recording about Kelly's work for justice through the end of his life. We'll see a photo of Kelly as we hear Burnell's voice.
Kelly Thompson was an activist. He was a common face at legislative sessions in Olympia, testifying to Congress on matters of human rights, justice, and equality. His views on death were open and well known to his friends. Most of us heard him say that when his time was near, he wanted to hike onto a glacier on Mount Rainier and disappear into a crevasse. When he was diagnosed with Parkinson's, it was clear that his time was nearing, and he wasn't shy about initiating conversations about personal choice with death. In the last few years of his life, we had many discussions about death, and he was very interested in whether he could access the death with dignity law with Parkinson's. Kelly feared what Parkinson's could do to him, and as he watched his body fail, he feared losing his window of opportunity to exercise his right on how he died. Kelly once again became an activist, testifying to Congress to broaden the death with dignity law, to enable people with Parkinson's and neurodegenerative diseases to be able to access death with dignity on their terms and not have their choice restricted by obstacles that the current law imposes. Kelly was passionate about how he lived, and in the end was passionate about how he died.
When the rain is blowing in your face and the whole world is on your case, I would offer you a warm embrace to make you feel my love.
When the evening shadows and the stars appear, and there is no one there to dry your tears, I could hold you for 1,000,000 years to make you feel my love. I know you haven't made your mind up yet, but I would never do you wrong. I've known it from the moment that we met, no doubt in my mind where you belong.
I'd go hungry, I'd go black and blue, I'd go crawling down the avenue.
No, there's nothing that I wouldn't do to make you feel my love. The storms are raging on the rolling sea and on the highway of regret. The winds of change are blowing wild and free. You ain't seen nothing like me yet.
I could make you happy, make your dreams come true. Nothing that I wouldn't do. Go to the ends of the earth for you, to make you feel my love, to make you feel my love.
Thank you so much for your music. There are many stories and memories of Kelly with us today. I'm guessing that almost everyone here has at least one Kelly Thompson story to tell. For those who are joining us online, I invite anyone who wishes to share a quality or a brief memory of Kelly. You can write it in the chat, and we'll make sure that it is shared with Kelly's family. On site, we have a few folks who are willing and wanting to share. We'll begin with Ann Yo.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ann. I first got to know Kelly in 2006. At that time, our Unitarian Universalist denomination had just begun a multi-year endeavor to create a statement of conscience. The focus was peacemaking. Our congregation participated in that work. One Saturday morning, I attended a study group which Kelly facilitated. He asked us, "What would you do if someone was breaking into your house in the middle of the night?" Another woman in our group replied, "I live alone. I keep a baseball bat by my bed. I try to bash his head with it." I do not remember Kelly's reply, but I do remember his visible reaction. He literally recoiled from her words. He literally recoiled from her words. I don't think she noticed. It was subtle, but it was there, and it intrigued me. After our group dispersed, I approached Kelly to chat. I casually mentioned his reaction when he heard how our group member intended to deal with an intruder. And here's what he said. He did not realize that he had reacted visibly, and in fact, he worried a little bit that he may have hurt her feelings. But he did react, he said, because he would not do physical harm to another person. He would not do physical harm to another person. Not even if your life is in danger, I wondered. No, he replied, no. I don't remember when the subject of military service came up, but Kelly did tell me something about his years in Vietnam. And you've heard about this, so what I say is just very brief, things that impressed me. He applied for conscientious objector status, and he was drafted into the Army and trained as a combat medic and went to Vietnam. Although medics in a combat zone routinely carried weapons, Kelly did not carry a weapon in Vietnam. He endured some grief due to that stance, and he just calmly and respectfully reiterated whenever it was necessary, I don't carry a weapon. Yep, I don't carry a weapon. And he was very, very gently assertive about it, and it worked. I realized that I had met a very courageous man, a man who was true to his personal value of nonviolence, even if his own life was in danger. True to his personal value of nonviolence, even if his own life was in danger. I'm a retired Army nurse, and Kelly, I salute you.
And now for something completely different. From the mid-1990s for about 15 years, there was a tradition at OUUC in December just before Christmas, and that was the annual Yule Play. It was put together by the Religious Education Program, RE program. It was through the Yule Play experience that I bonded with Kelly, and our family bonded with many of the families that had joined the congregation during those growth years. According to Yule Play lore, the idea of a unique Yule Play was conceived by the new RE director, Kelly Thompson, and supported by Kelly and others in the RE program. Unlike a Christmas pageant, this would be a different approach, incorporating UU values in a unique production and get 40 to 60 kids up in front of the congregation. The RE teachers and interested parents were invited to a potluck at the Thompsons with a good supply of wine. And by the end of the night, we came up with the first Yule Play, Ms. Frizzle and the Magic School Bus Go to Find the Light. In case you didn't know, Miss Frizzle was and her Magic School Bus was a popular scholastic book series in the for elementary kids at that time. So I went home with the task of writing about a visit to a Northwest native village where the Frizzle kids would learn how Raven brought light into the world. And Kelly wrote about them visiting Lao Tzu to hear there could be no light without darkness. And then the bus headed off to Bethlehem, where the Frizzle kids visited the baby Jesus, shepherds and cute angels and lambs, but then they went and found a group of homeless, hungry, and forgotten people. The first props for the play that were created by the duct tape crew were pretty simple. The bus was a cardboard silhouette, and the props and backdrops were minimal. Costumes were generally home inspired by parents and kids, and there was no choreography or musical numbers, just a couple of holiday songs at the beginning and end. But it was a success, and it was chaotic, and everyone had fun and were exhausted, but they were pumped. And of course, by the next year, the chaos was forgotten, and we enthusiastically wrote and ran a different version of Miss Frizzle for the next couple of years. But Kelly began to look to something more daring, more unpredictable. And as he was prone to do, and as the like-minded Miss Frizzle was known to have said, take chances, make mistakes, and get dirty. So the annual Yule Play writing parties, Kelly and others began to urge us to come up with plots that had a moral theme mixed with unusual circumstances. For instance, the hobbits and Gandalf in Middle Earth would search for the 7 UU principles with the help of the Blues Brothers, Mr. Rogers, and a Rastafarian dragon. Or Robin Hood and the Merry Men in the Tight Tights would teach citizens of Sherwood Forest to get their faces out of their screens and simplify their lives. Or having Oompa Loompas in the Wonka factory run by Donald Plump of The Apprentice fame meet the elves from the North Pole to fight together for workers' rights so they could feel the spirit of their work. And we built these and several other plots over the years into musicals because we had so many talented kids that could do choreography. We modified the lyrics, and they would sing and dance and act. And Kelly usually insisted on including something from Monty Python. Most, especially his favorite, the French soldiers who taunted King Arthur in search of the Holy Grail. In his exuberance, Kelly would usually try to take the plots way, way, way out into the stratosphere, and we'd have to reel him in a bit or a lot. And it was often a task I enjoyed in our relationship then and in the years to come under many other circumstances. The Yule plays now took on a new crazy level. The duct tape crew worked late into the evenings with constructing and painting sets, figuring out how to safely have puzzle pieces fall from the ceiling, setting lights and making props like Des McGarren's now legendary fireplace. And we drive parents a bit nuts with our outrageous scheduling of rehearsals and bringing them back to help wrangle kids. It would be total chaos in the RE wing, and we'd rush around the few Sundays before the play date, having the kids do scripts, teaching them choreography. We'd confuse the hell out of Troy. Each year, we developed a play and rewrote the pieces all the way until dress rehearsal, and we'd ask him to teach these crazy songs to the kids. And each new RE director would often just sigh as we thanked them for their patience. But most important, for the two U Play performances on those Sundays, all 40 to 60 kids in the RE program would have their turn on stage, and working together, they would create something. And we would create community. And it was always the miracle on East End Street. And as one congregant exclaimed afterwards, "Well, I couldn't understand a word of what they were saying, but it sure looked like they were having fun." And as director or producer for so many of the plays, this was Kelly's aim. For all those kids in the congregation to have fun, create community, and to experience a little bit of weirdness in the world. Something stretching their creativity and maybe even their intellectual envelope. I can't help but think that many of the kids, parents, and audience members remember their experience with the U Plays and smile at the mention of Kelly's name, or picture that big personality whenever anyone says, "Your mother was a hamster and your father smelled of elderberries." Finally, Kelly and I decided to hang up our pens and duct tape as primary instigators of the Yule Plays and leave it to others to carry the torch. And with that, we literally trotted up to the stage and went out with this anthem from Spamalot, of course. If you trust in your song, keep your eyes on the goal, then the prize you won't fail. That's your grail, that's your grail. So be strong, keep right on to the end of your song. Do not fail, that's your grail, that's your grail, that's your grail.
I can just picture it, can't you? Thank you, Anne and Joe, for those wonderful remembrances of the whole person that was Kelly Thompson. And know that there will be time after the service for you to share your Kelly Thompson story. Sing.
Let's sing together this song. My life flows on in endless song. The lyrics will come up on the screen.
Kelly's friends, Barbara Roser and Riley McLaughlin, put together this slideshow that has images of Kelly's life and the voices of his beloved family.
you are on the road must have a code that you can live by, and so become yourself, because the past is just a goodbye. Teach your children well, their father's hell did slowly go by, and feed them on your dreams, the one they picked, the one you know by. Don't you ever ask them why, if they told you you would cry, so just look at them and sigh.
My grandpa was the best. He was really great to hang out with, play games with, and he always made me laugh. Which bear is the most condescending? A panda. What kind of noise does a witch's vehicle make? Boom, boom. What's brown and sticky? A stick. Two guys walked into a bar. The third guy ducked. Me and my grandpa were the best cube team ever. We would not lose one round.
I vehemently recognize the complexity of this unfolding, and I am humbled by the vast array of emotions, thoughts, beliefs, and uncertainties that have swirled like a tempest around our family over these last few years. Maybe someday they will settle or precipitate and pass. All I can say with absolute certainty and clarity in this eye of our storm is that you are loved. Wherever you have been and wherever you may go, you are so deeply loved.
I imagine that Kelly would appreciate that we celebrated his life today with laughter as well as tears. Our grief is a holy thing. It is proof that another life touched ours in a profound way. It is the mark of love, the mark of connection, and the mark of a life well lived. It is important to hold on to that connection because it is through those memories that Kelly lives on in us. May we give thanks for the playful and generous spirit. That was Kelly James Thompson. We will extinguish our chalice with this excerpt from Mary Oliver's poem, In Blackwater Woods. Every year, everything I have ever learned in my lifetime leads back to this. To live in this world, you must be able to do three things: to love what is mortal, to hold it against your bones, knowing that your own life depends on it, and when the time comes to let it go, to let it go. Kelly's friend, Burnell, has one last send-off for Kelly to share.
Good morning. Those of you who arrived for Kelly's internment heard the beautiful resonant bass tones of an alpenhorn played by Babe Thompson. Thank you for that. Now imagine that as the background. Need a little something here. So this yodel is for Kelly. Yodeling's origin was communicating between high mountain valleys, and I envision Kelly on some remote, beautiful mountaintop, perhaps the Matterhorn. This is for you, Kelly. Kelly, can you hear me? Young little tea, young little tea, young lady, young little tea, young little tea, young little tea, young lady, young little tea. Little Kelly, can you hear us? Yodeloti, your spirit's like an echo. Yodeloti, across the mountains. Yodeloti, love you, Kelly.
Thank you, Bruno. For those online today, thank you for your presence. For those on site, please feel free to gather for refreshments and conversation and stories in the commons. May we go with peace. May we go with gratitude. May we go with love.